Welcome to the French Drain Man channel. I'm Robert Sherwood, and I'm showing you a failed sump pump discharge line. This tree took out this sump pump discharge line. There's also a gutter downspout in the same corner. There's a big maple tree. And I'm not recommending cutting down the tree. There's always a way to do these jobs. Now we are taking it to a ditch, and the ditch does run on a slope. So you want to use every bit of the ditch slope. You want to take your discharge line to the side that's lower. We also helped her. This ditch didn't flow water. It held water in spots. So we went ahead and did a regrade on that. And we're going to show you a little bit of all of this. So we actually ran our discharge line down to that culvert and put it in the culvert all the way to the other side of it, to our property line. We maximized all the slope there was. This was really, really flat, and I'm going to show you how we increased the amount of slope that we had to work with, and I'm going to show you what we did to basically combat that giant silver maple tree. Again, I love the trees. I will never tell a customer you need to cut a tree down. That tree, you couldn't have put a price on that tree. You can't just go to the nursery and buy an 80-year-old maple tree. So we're getting all our parts together. This is something you guys never see, the morning. And, you know, we're flying in, we're flying out, and that's the only part of the yard that looks like that. I just want to be clear, because there has to be a spot where you just drop partial rolls, things like that. And we always look for it. When we only need a little piece, we go there and look for it and feed out of that. So we're loading up the tool trailer with all the parts that we used from the previous day. We're double checking every single thing. We want to make sure that we roll out full of fuel. We have all the parts and materials that we need for the job. The guys, they know what we're doing. I explained the job to them well, and they want to show up prepared. If anything, they want to have a little extra of everything, whether it's the PVC Schedule 40 that we use for the sump pump discharge line. This is Rochester Hills, Michigan, and this is one of the older neighborhoods in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Look at that maple tree, that giant maple tree. Man, that tree is so big, it took out their sump pump discharge line. The roots wrapped around the Schedule 40 and just put a stranglehold on it, and you know, over time, the tree's going to win. So I want to not only replace that with a functional discharge line for basement sump pump, I want to build it in a way to where that tree doesn't compromise the hard work that we put into this and the homeowner paying us their hard-earned money to do a job like this. I promised her that she will never have to visit this again, tree or no tree. So I told her keep the tree. The yard is so flat that there was virtually no slope. So one of the things that we did, this was like a plus. We wanted to avoid getting into the big anchoring roots on this giant maple tree. You saw how big that tree is. So you know how much wood is underneath. I mean, it's ridiculous when you're trying to dig that close to a tree of that size. So what I decided to do was to build this above the tree roots. We're going to actually take the sump pump discharge line and we're going to put it right on the ground at the house. Then we're going to start our slope. So now think about that. If you're not digging a hole and setting a pipe in it up at the house, but you're setting it right on the existing ground, and the ground was flat to begin with, and then you start to dig a little and a little more and a little more as you work your way to the ditch, now you have slope. You took a flat yard and you created slope. And in this case, it was a twofer because, again, you could see we're already just stripping off some of the surface roots, just some of the tops of the roots. Matter of fact, some of the roots are so big, we're just literally pulling back, you know, a few inches of wood off of them just so that we can lay the sump pump discharge line and get the slope that we wanted. And we just want to lay it flat. We want it to lay nice over all of this. So you can see we're digging very shallow. I mean, we're getting the slope we need. And again, you'll see when they put the line together here how they did it up at the house. All right, so we're almost through the section where all the roots. You know, look at the problem we're having. We're having to axe our way through the tops of all those anchoring roots. Now imagine if this was a deeper dig. I mean, just impossible. I mean, just impossible to deal with. You can't dig this close to a tree that size. You're not going to win. I mean, you're going to be there for days. And now you have to worry during strong winds, will that tree blow over? If the wind comes out of the direction where that tree needed those anchoring roots for support, yes, that tree can blow over if you cut through too many of those big anchoring roots on a big tree like this. So I know all of this stuff through experience. Yes, when I was young, I cut too many roots off on a tree. We actually had to go on two sides of it, and everything was fine for months until this big storm came through, and then the tree just uprooted. So I do have a lot of experience, my 35 years. I'd like to share it all with the young contractors that are subs to our channel and the DIYer who's trying to do his job in a way to where it's not going to impact him negatively. So hopefully we're achieving that. So we're just about past this big tree, and we're going to be able to start, digging easy. And we're also going to, keep going deeper because, again, we're taking a flat yard and we're creating slope that's not there. So keep that in mind. Still got a few roots to get through. And on a 90-degree day like this, you just gotta pace yourself. You can't overdo it in the heat like this. I mean, we got 90-degree weather. We're getting a little deeper, so you can see some of the feeder roots. This won't hurt the tree. This won't hurt the tree at all. This part won't hurt the tree at all. We didn't take any anchoring roots out. If we took anchoring roots out, they would be as big as your thigh or possibly your torso on this tree. So it's got all its anchoring roots. And we're just pulling up some feeder roots over here. And we're working our way towards a ditch bottom. And we want to hit that ditch bottom. We want to be right low in that ditch bottom. We're not going to worry about the ditch, backing up because there's no way it could cause a problem flood our house. Say the ditch backed up and it backfed into our sump pump discharge line. It's not going to go in the house. There's a check valve in the house on the sump pump discharge line. Not to mention, in Michigan, we put what is called freeze protection. It doesn't prevent freeze. It protects you against it. If the line ever froze up in the winter, it'll just dump water right outside of the house and not flood your basement. So if the water backed up into the pipe, water seeks level. So however high that ditch goes, it could go up that high in elevation in our discharge line. But it's not going to make it to where it's going to be harmful to the homeowner, harmful to their property. So I just want to make all that very clear. Now, because we're going through all this work, I suggested to the homeowner, let's take care of this corner downspout that's responsible for so much roof runoff. There was a downspout that when I looked up at the house eave, I could see just how much gutter. I could not believe how much roof water this one downspout was responsible for. I said, well, you're recirculating this with your basement sump pump system. Let's just get this out of here too for you. So we ended up doing a downspout and a sump pump discharge line combination. So the digging's finally getting about root free. We're going to make it past these cedar. Now, I'm not worried about these cedar trees damaging the system. They won't. We're going to use a 4-inch Schedule 40. Now, keep this in mind. All the failed systems that we replace are 3-inch. So when you increase the diameter of a pipe, it gets stronger. People always say, well, why don't you use 3-inch corrugated pipe? Because 3-inch is not as strong as 4-inch. And people always say, your systems are always 4-inch PVC, schedule 40 for your sump pump discharge line. Why is that? Well, because it's stronger. It's the same thickness in wall, but when you increase the diameter from 3 inches to 4 inches, it gets stronger. So this is the part you want to watch closely. These guys are methodically going to start this right at what was the existing top of the ground. They're cutting off that failed one, and it didn't even have freeze protection before. So we're going to put one of our freeze protection kits that we have in our online store for everybody who's a northerner and in Canada. They work great. So the guys are, like I said, just methodically getting this perfect. They got the trench perfect. This is important. One guy's doing the downspout. So you got Valentine doing the downspout. You got Francisco taking care of the hookup of the sump pump discharge line. All right, so once you start your sump pump discharge line at the surface of the ground, this is going to change the way the grade has to be around the yard completely. This whole corner is going to be really affected. So you got to handle this right. So we're going to cover the lines and pack the dirt around the lines. You want to take your time doing this, and I'll tell you why. If you don't pack the dirt, like the guys, they'll rake a couple inches, they'll pack it in. They'll rake a couple inches, they'll pack it in. The reason why they're doing that, they don't want to come back to this job. What happens if you just get in a hurry and you just start shoveling dirt and throwing it on top and not walking it in and packing it down, what ends up happening is you get what's called saddling. It's not settling. It is and it isn't. Saddling is a term used when the dirt settles. It's like a horse saddle. You end up with this U-shaped, sunken portion of the yard for the entire length of that installation you did. So the guys are being very methodical here. They're packing the dirt around the downspout line and the sump pump discharge line. And it's okay to put a sump pump discharge line in the frost when you use 4-inch Schedule 40 or 4-inch corrugated, depending on the design and what it entails. Both will serve you well. I wanted to do the Schedule 40 in this case, and I wanted to do the dual wall, the 4-inch corrugated dual wall, smooth on the inside, corrugated on the outside, because if this tree in 10, 20, 30 years, just ended up getting rough with these pipes, I don't want any problems for this homeowner, or if this is a legacy home for a family member or whoever's here. I mean, they shouldn't have to deal with shoddy workmanship and contractors that didn't even think about the future. Everything we build, we don't build it for today. We build it for today, next year, 10 years, 20 years. You guys know that about us. If you're a sub of this channel, you know that we build everything to last forever. So over here by the ditch where we were really nice and deep, we're just going to put that sod that we cut off right back. But up around the tree where we have pipe that's sitting right on top of the ground, and then you have the tree itself that has just totally messed up the grade. In between the house and that tree, there's a low spot, and it'll hold water. So we don't want that to be an issue. So we're trying to do multiple things here. We want to take care of a new sump pump discharge line installation. We want to take care of that corner downspout that was responsible for so much of the roof runoff. And we want to regrade this corner because that tree, from years and years and years of roots developing and going from the size of a thread to the size of a pencil to the size of your arm to the size of your torso. I mean, it raised the ground to where water couldn't get out from the side of this house. So we want to grade it, and we did bring in some topsoil so that we could work this grade. So you can see here, the guys are methodically working the grade. You can see that sump pump discharge line that they had set on the ground at the house right there next to that gas meter. And that was another thing that wasn't a problem, was the gas line, because the pipe was on top of the gas line over there. And by the time we got to the depth of the gas line, we were, far past it. So we want the water to now shed off the tree, because when it's raining, all the rain is coming off the canopy of the tree, and we want it to shed away towards the ditch. And we don't want it trapped between the tree and the house. So we filled that low, that was very, very low. We filled that all in. We work with the laser transit. We take readings of elevations, and we get it right. We get it right the first time, so we don't have to come back and deal with a call where something failed, or there's this big area that's still holding water, or maybe something we did caused it to hold more water or hold water in an area that it didn't hold water before. So here we are, just working the grade. And what I'm going to do on a house like this, now this lawn was an older lawn, and it was definitely a lawn that wasn't sod. It was never sod. Many, many years ago, this was a seeded yard, and I want to use a shade seed underneath this big silver maple. So the guys, they're prepping this, they're getting the grade, perfect, and then what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up putting down a really good shade seed, because if you don't do a good shade seed, say you wanted to use bluegrass, because here in the north we love our bluegrasses. I absolutely love bluegrass. It's beautiful. I think we have the nicest turf in the world. And honestly, when I travel south on vacation and I see what's in the regions, the Sunbelt regions, what they have for grass, what will survive in that heat and humidity, it looks like our crabgrass. So obviously to us, it looks like weeds. I love our grass in the north, but if you try to plant bluegrass in the shade, it will not grow. Oh, sure, it'll germinate. It'll come up. You'll think you have something. You'll think you're doing something. but in the shade, it'll slowly recede. Each and every year, it'll recede more and more and more. So the guys took some elevation readings. They see where they got to add, some more topsoil. So that's working out pretty good. And we're also making sure that the water flows out of that ditch properly because the elevations weren't right there. So here's where we went ahead and we dug it out. We went ahead and dug that out so that it wouldn't hold water anymore. There was this high spot in the ditch. And then we just put a little bit of topsoil down and, planted. Now here we used a sun variety. Now you can put some bluegrass down here because you got all this sun. It'll grow just fine. And as you guys know, we do have a video on how to grow grass. I did I think 4 or 5 part video, and it's definitely a great video, especially if you're a northerner. You want to put straw over your seed. It's such an important part of growing turf from seed. You'll literally get 100 times more of the grass plants if you put straw over top of the seed you put down, because when it's damp and it germinates, the straw keeps it safe, keeps it from drying out, it keeps it damp, and instead of having so many grass plants just wither away, you end up with all these grass plants surviving. You get a nice stand of turf grass. So here we are. We're spreading the grass seed. We're pretty generous with the grass seed, that's for sure. I want it to come up quick. So I have a mix here of ryegrass and shade varieties for here in the north. The rye, that's going to die as soon as winter comes. But what the rye is for is rye pops in like 4 or 5 days. I want some grass to hold this dirt from eroding. I don't want erosion during a hard rain event. Then, after the rye builds a nice turf that holds the topsoil in place, later on, the better variety of grasses can root in. They now have the time. Some grass plants here in the north take 30 days to germinate. So that's why you need something that's fast like rye. It's not a desirable lawn, but it'll die in the winter. It's not going to be a problem. So again, if you need more slope on your sump pump discharge line, and if you got a situation where you have one of these big giants near your home and you're trying to figure out how to build your system, you don't have to go around it. You definitely don't want to go under it. You just go over it. And that's what we did. We went over the roots. We started out with the pipes right on top of grade, and we made our own slope from a yard that had no slope. It was completely flat without slope. If you guys like these videos that we've been putting together from A to Z, full installation video, pound that thumbs up button on this video. Let us know you like it.